From healing to high performance, this is the Warriors Ascent podcast. This episode is brought to you by Torch AI, unlocking human potential. How's it going? Welcome to the Warriors Ascent podcast featuring just Matt Hastings. My co-host isn't here for the second episode in a row, but what I do have is a board of directors member, Siobhan Rudicille, here today.
Hello.
And she is going to help me walk through what it's like to become a board member, why to become a board member, what that means, and what our future might look like. And so I don't want to steal any of the thunder here. And so what I want to do is I just want to hear your story, because you have a great story and you've served a lot of things.
So, yeah, I feel like I have a bit of an eclectic background, to say the least. So one of the main reasons why this organization means a lot to me is I have a few different ties to it. So I was a Kansas City, Missouri officer for a couple of years when I met my husband, actually. That's what I was doing. And so I've seen how first responders can be touched by a lot of trauma and how that can impact them. But in addition to that, I married somebody in the military. So my husband was a 20-year veteran from the Army, had 4 combat tours, 5 deployments altogether, and kind of how that has impacted him as well. Thankfully, all the combat tours were before me. So wow. I didn't really see how that impacted him at the time, but definitely, even years later, seeing some of it through his eyes, and really seeing how this program helps people that generally are overlooked and will not ask for help for a multitude of reasons, but a big one being that they're supposed to be the strong ones that take care of people. Yeah. The fact that in 5 days it can be so life-changing and not something that's just a short-term, I'm great for a couple of weeks, but truly lasts a lifetime. I feel like it's an organization that I couldn't not support.
I mean, well, I think that's a great way to state all of those things. I think you've got a really unique perspective as well, because you being a police officer, weren't you also a veteran?
No.
Okay.
No.
But you're married to a veteran. Mm-hmm. And so you see in both sides. And so when I went to the retreat myself, I hate the word retreat. I like to call it a workshop.
Yeah.
But when I went there, it was mixed. There was about 4 veterans and 4 first responder types. Mm-hmm. And they were really nervous about us, saying we couldn't get along. And I thought that was wrong. I thought we had the very same things. I mean, what's your take on that?
Yeah, and I think that is so interesting that a lot of people are nervous about that, because it's so similar. When my husband and I were dating, I went to a military ball. Actually, I don't know that it was. We went to some dinner, and a lot of his friends were there. And it just so happened that I had a gnarly bruise on my arm that, if you didn't know what I did for a living, would probably look like I was a battered woman. And so it obviously sparked conversation with all of their friends, like, hey, what's going on? Oh, okay. Yeah, no, obviously we didn't figure Jared did it, kind of joking around. Mm-hmm. But then through the conversations, they're like, you go through and you see, I wouldn't go out on, it's escaping me, but on a mission, I wouldn't go out and do anything without an M16 or something like that. They're like, but you do it every night, because I worked in the inner city. And I'm like, well, it's a lot different. Yeah, we see things, anything could be serious, and it is on a daily basis, but it's very similar. And I think that once people realize that's kind of what it is. I mean, EMS and fire is the same. Fire and EMS show up to a lot of the same calls that police do. They see a lot of the same things. Right. Department of Corrections is similar. So the microcosms of it all, I feel like, are extremely similar once you start talking. If you first walk in, you're like, they're not going to know what I'm talking about. Well, just listen to a story. Everybody's is pretty similar.
That's exactly, what my experience was. And they remarked, wow, I think we melded pretty good. So I think you did really good articulating that exact thing. I know that you have that good connection, but upon your initial engagement, what was it that brought you into to this organization?
So I actually had never heard of this organization. I have been working with them for about 2.5 years now. When I first started, I actually have, I had a family relative on the board. And so he actually reached out to my husband and was like, hey, maybe you'd want to look into this, supporting this program. And my husband immediately sent it to me, was like, this is more up your alley. Like, I already know that you want to do things, and this is going to be a good fit. And so I went to my first graduation, which was, in fact, I think it may have been it may have been yours.
Yeah.
Maybe not. I don't remember. I don't remember when you went through, but it wasn't you were definitely one of the first ones I went to. And anyone who is in the area, if you have not been to a graduation and you truly want to know how impactful this is, and I'm sure everybody before me has said the same, there's a lot of things that we do, but I think the biggest thing for people to really realize it, and you can go and look at all of the videos of some alumni who are talking about things that they've experienced in there, but to see it firsthand is very impactful. To see all these people who you would think, gruff men, women who do everything for other people, get up and really talk about how they have a new community and they value themselves and their lives are changed, literally saved their lives. And then sometimes you get to see the little kids who get to really get their parents back. So that was really my first introduction to it. And as soon as the graduation ended, I went up to Christy and I was like, great, what can I do? How can I get involved? And it just kind of snowballed from there.
Wow, that's amazing. It's about the same time, and it could have been mine. I got out, and became involved for about the same time, 2.5 years.
Don't take it out on the plant.
But every time I come back to the graduation, and I come to as many as I can, and we try to bring partners from the community. And because each time they go exactly what you just said, this is like, most of them are teared up. Most of them are like, we'll go out to lunch afterwards. They can't believe it. They just, what can we do? This was the most impactful, genuine, authentic thing I've ever seen, with these people, standing up and saying such vulnerable things, and they'll say it in front of a crowd. It's not a huge crowd that comes, but it's, it's normally family members and some board of directors people and some community partners, but mostly filled with family. But each time it'll bring somebody to us and say, look, you guys keep doing what you do, because you do that really good. What you're not that good at is, growing or something. And I maybe can help you. It's like, that's what we're looking for.
Absolutely.
Because again, I think you're right. I think this 5 days, Mike calls it 5 days of what right looks like. And I think it's 5 days of just being with people, seeing, wow, I'm not the only one. Wow, other people are getting better. I can do it. And this, it's just it just grows together. And
I think everybody's reaction through the 5 days is different. And this is just my own personal experience. So my husband actually did go through the program.
I was going to ask.
A little over a year ago now. So I've seen other people's reactions, and the initial talking to some of the spouses, and they're saying things like, he came home completely different. And that's great. But, when you go gung-ho to everything, it's hard to keep that up.
Yeah.
And so, then they start to slide off, and then they've got to, get back on track. And my husband was a little different. He came home and it was very much like a slow, I got to implement a couple things at a time to really get it into my routine. And it was the first time that I'd really encountered that. So honestly, at first I was like, in my head, I'm like, did he really get anything out of it? But in reality, he is a very methodical person. And so this is how I've got to do it to make sure that it sticks. And so everybody's reaction to it is different. And how they come out of it is different.
Totally.
But everybody gets something out of it.
Yeah, I've seen it range from people saying that, oh, my whole family, we dumped all of our bad food. We all bought yoga mats, and we're all doing it every day. And it's like, geez, how long is that going to last? In about 2 weeks. I'm
going to tell you right now, there's no way I'm going without my bad food.
Right. And again, I like the slow momentum idea, and I had to use the same thing, because we're trying to build this positive habits, change negative habits, negative thinking into positive thinking. And it just takes time and practice, was like learning to hover. My guy said time and opportunity, and I eventually knew how to do it. And it's the same with this, just practice. And it's hard, and you can, but I don't find it successful to just urge and start all brand new. It's like,
and I think what's super helpful with this that I don't, honestly, I couldn't tell you, I haven't done a lot of research on other programs, but what I really, really think is hopeful with this one is the community that it builds and the fact that when they leave, they have everybody's phone numbers. And I know just from my husband's, and I'm sure yours is the same, that cohort text thread is blowing up every day. So you're getting a constant reminder to stay on track, for one. And you have somebody, more than one person. I mean, you have a group of people to lean on when you falter. And you know that they've been there too. Right. And that there's not going to be a shame associated with it. It's just, okay, what do we got to do to get back on track? How can we help you?
Yeah.
Which a lot of people, especially retired people, don't have anymore. Like, that's what you had in the military. That's what you had as a first responder, and then you retire and your community's gone.
That's so right. I know transitions are just hard, but especially when your identity is so wrapped up in your job.
Yeah.
And it's like tonight, we should have had Marissa Barnes, who's a major with the KCPD. She was scheduled to be here. She's going to be here. But guess what happens when you are a public servant?
Life changes real fast.
Yeah, and tonight there's some big event that's happening across the United States, and she's out there, and the job comes first. And so she was very apologetic, but didn't make it tonight. And, that's kind of the thing that happens when you're in uniform. And we're used to it, and it gets hard. And I think it's pretty interesting. Could you sort of discuss, I know what it's like to be a veteran, and I've gone to combat. Now I'm at home, and I'm out. But I have never been a police officer. My version of combat's right here in my home streets, and I never get to leave it. What's that like?
I mean, it's different. I think it's probably different depending on where you're an officer at. So for me, where I was out on patrol, that is not some place that I would visit anytime other than at work. So it was a lot easier for me to kind of separate that, because I'm not driving those streets on a daily basis. That's not my local Walmart that, you have to go visit for a call. So it was a lot easier for me to separate, like, this is work and this is home, because I wasn't the same. I wasn't ever there, really. Yeah, okay. That's the two different jobs. But I think it was kind of interesting with our dynamic for my husband to kind of get to see the opposite side. Like, if there was an officer involved shooting on the news and I'm at work, how is he doesn't know who is involved. Obviously, he doesn't know if it's me or if it's somebody else. So I think it was eye-opening for him to see the other side of it, of what maybe his family went through when he was deployed. But since you're there every day, and police officers and first responders, their schedules are so crazy and long that it's hard to really take that time. You spend so much time with your partner. You spend so much time with your other coworkers. They really become your family, and you lean on each other. And let's face it, when you see a lot of dark things, you make a lot of dark jokes, and that dark humor is just how you deal with it. And then you go home and realize that's probably not how you're supposed to react through the rest of your life.
No, and it's not appreciated, that dark humor.
No, it's really not.
No, but we need that escape mechanism, and I think it's interesting. Your parallels to what it's like to be in a military unit are just, it's exactly how it felt to me.
Yeah.
So, with all that being said, like, why the board of directors? How can you, what do you think we can do to serve this organization as members of the board?
We run a fantastic program. We reach a very small amount of people. And I would imagine that every person on the board has probably told you the exact same thing. I feel like we have been on the cusp of exploding for the last year and a half. We are so close to really impacting a lot more people, whether that be more recognition. I mean, we're getting people from more states to our program every single time, which is huge, because it's not like we've got a giant network that we're doing marketing to. It's really word of mouth for the most part. Yeah. And I think that we run out of a great facility for us. Are the accommodations fantastic? No. I mean, you're not sleeping on the highest thread count. But let's face it, you're veterans and first responders.
Yeah.
Nobody's expecting that.
Right.
But the way that it's set up is fantastic for what we do. But it would be nice to be able to reach more people, whether that be for our own facility, for additional programs, which has other issues. You know, our providers have day jobs. What do we need to do to build that out?
Right.
It's a process for sure. But I feel like we're just so close to getting a much larger reach. And that's what I wanted to help with. How I can help with that kind of changes every day. There are people on the board who are much more well-connected through the city than I am, for sure. But sometimes just having a little bit of a different angle on things, I feel like helps. So that's kind of why I wanted to join. At the time when I joined, there weren't any police officers on the board. So it was a little bit different of a perspective. We had some veteran on the board, but nobody from a first responder's perspective.
Yeah, and I appreciate that too, with Marissa being a major on
she is invaluable
right now. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And she's got she knows all that's going on inside of that organization, and she's trying to get our organization well known inside of there for preventive measures. And
well, and as a side of just being a regular patrol officer, as a major, like, she gets to truly see the initiatives that they're taking within the department,
right,
to really help that. And she's talking to other, she's probably works with KCFD and other departments to get our name out there, but also know what they're doing that could possibly help, because getting 5 days off for a retreat can be difficult when you're on, depending on the schedule that they're in. So what programs are there that they can help ease that scheduling burden for them? That's something that without her, we wouldn't have, which is huge.
Yeah. And I didn't have this conversation with her, but over in a close by town, I was talking to an officer that said, stigma remains an issue on the force, where the officers don't want to say anything. And I had said, well, what, like in the military, we do these preventive maintenance checks, and we do all this stuff ahead of it breaking. And why not think of people in the same manner and give them a preventive, wellness as a benefit, and give everybody an opportunity to go through, like change the language around it to like, you're not going there because you're a knucklehead or you're broken, you're damaged, and we need you fixed. It's like, you're going there to prevent you from being damaged and broken, because you deserve wellness, because we care about you, because we care about your job, because we care about our community. And
I agree. I think Department of Corrections has really embraced that.
Yeah.
I think it's still going to be a stigma everywhere else. And it's not that people don't value it. It's just really hard to change people's opinions. And they know when they know that they're struggling. They know that they probably need the help. But it takes a lot to actually admit it and then go.
Yeah.
They may feel more comfortable with, well, I can just go see somebody one-on-one, because then I can kind of keep my guards up a little bit better. But, from what I've heard just in talking with my husband, it's still a lot of a stigma in the military, which it's slowly getting better. But I think the more word of mouth is our best bet. We need people who have been through the program to recruit their friends who need it, because the stigma is still there. And especially scheduling, if you've got to take those extra days off, everybody's nosy. They want to know, what are you doing?
Yeah, exactly.
What are you doing on your day off?
Yes, they do.
What do you mean? Where are you going?
And that's why I like organizationally, I'd like for there to be a great, already prearranged answer for that. It's like, hey, my organization cares about me. They're sending me off to Happy Camp, or whatever we want to call it.
Yeah. I mean, get them while they're young. I don't know. Maybe start something when they're in the academy, or, lateraling in. Who knows? I don't know what that solution is.
I mean, I think that works. I already see the Generation Z, or whatever you want to say, below us. They're a lot more open,
for sure.
Yeah, and life balance, and talking about their feelings, and sitting in their feelings and experiencing them. So I think that's a good thing. It's weird because it's not as productive as we've been. So like, which way do we want it,
Yeah.
So I don't know. So I think
do you want them mentally stable, or do you want them productive? You got to get happy medium.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So we can't complain when nobody wants to work today, because everybody's not feeling it.
Yeah.
I know. So, I don't know. So we talk about what each one of us brings to the board professionally. What are your skill sets that help us?
I'm a financial advisor, which is very different than obviously my previous role. So I basically help people make good choices with their money. And while I don't actually do that role here within the board, I am connected with a few different larger institutions. So just raising awareness within their giving departments, I think is a big one for sure. And I used to work for a firm that specialized in military for 3 years. Actually, I was with that firm. And so I actually would bring up this organization, not so much to try to get donations, so much as it is, do you know this is available?
Yeah, just the services.
Yeah, a chaplain's coming in and is sitting in a chair in front of me like, hey, do you know that this is available so that if you have people that come in and need help, this is something else you can offer them. So I'm just doing my best to try to raise awareness. And I don't know that my professional job helps a ton with that, but it does get me talking to a lot of different people in a lot of different professions that I wouldn't necessarily.
And I think that's truly is one of the main things we need. Like I talked about before, if we were to have everything I dreamed about, which is build our own facility where we could just have a place full of events and all the cohorts and workshops we needed, it would still be hard to get people to show up.
Yeah,
it just would be. And so we got to crack that egg, and just, I like to go around too and just raise awareness because I feel like, hey, I'll walk around. I don't care. I'll stand right up and say, look, I needed help. I thought I was tough. I thought saying I needed help made me weak.
Yeah. And
that was a weak way to think. It was wrong. And I wasn't doing well because of it. And once I found help, it wasn't like an instant switch. It takes some time. You got to slowly build up to this stuff.
Definitely.
And, time is a big time helper of things, especially if you're heading in the right trajectotion,
Well, and especially when you are talking to people who have families, your help, yes, you absolutely need the help, but these people are in the positions that they are because they wanted to help people. So instead of just framing it as, hey, yeah, you need the help, this would be good for you. Do you think it would be good for your kids to have a parent who's not angry all the time, who can actually sit in the room and be kind of frustrated and not lose their cool?
Not destroy Thanksgiving meal or something.
Give them the parent that they deserve. Give them the chance to have a parent that's truly able to be happy. Because that's what this program does. It's not just about helping that service member. It trickles down to everybody.
We talked, something I learned about here that I can't believe I didn't really fully understand, and how much data there is generational trauma. And I alluded to it in the last time because of the Vietnam guys and the World War II vets. They didn't have any treatment. They didn't even know what was going on. And these people lived long lives. And some of them were horrible, long lives filled with pain and bad memories. And it's like now we have this opportunity to correct that. And we still, people won't stand up and walk forward, And
I think a lot of them do if you talk about it from a different angle, because nobody wants to admit that they actually need help.
Right.
But if it's like, okay, it would help my kids or it would help my spouse.
What if it stopped this chain that you picked up from your grandfather that went to World War II and didn't know what to do with it?
Well, and not even that. A lot of people that come, a lot of the stories that they have, and yes, some of it is necessarily due to their service, but a lot of the stories they have are even from their childhood.
Oh, a lot of it.
So why not go ahead and deal with all that now so that the next generation doesn't have to?
Yeah. For sure. Hey, another thing you just made me realize is we do our cohorts in all male, all female. And, when I finished that, I was like, I think that's a mistake. I think our female cohort. And then I went to my first, I think I went to a Monday when everybody was getting there, and I realized that's the last Monday I'll go to on a female cohort.
It is
and I
not the day for you to be there when they walk in.
It really isn't. And do you have any insight as to why it's a value to keep those two separate?
I think for any women that are watching this, it's going to be really obvious. But for
Yeah.
any men who maybe haven't thought about it, sexual assault, it happens. It's real. And it is a huge part of a lot of people's trauma. And they are not going to be comfortable talking about it with other men there.
Yeah.
Especially somebody that they feel kind of has a similar authority as maybe something the person who attacked them did. Sometimes these people who come in here, it's happened with more than one assaulter. And so it's really important to keep it separate. Like, yeah, they've gone through similar things, but the way that it impacts them is very different. And I mean, when I was an officer, my partner was a male, and I can tell you right now, my experience and his experience at the exact same calls were not the same. Yeah, people would call him names and say other things, but almost everybody called me baby, which isn't a big deal in the long game, but it is really infuriating when you're just trying to show up and help. And
you're putting your life on the line, and that's what you're getting.
So I think keeping them separate is super important because they'll feel comfortable talking about everything versus...
That's what I found. I do go to the graduations, and I find them incredibly impactful.
Well, and the graduation's a completely different vibe.
Yeah.
That first day, those first several days, absolutely not.
Yes.
Community dinner, which is on Thursdays, probably
good vibe too.
Much more receptive.
Yeah.
Because they processed a lot of it. But yeah.
And what that is on Thursday night, we usually have a nice dinner, and we all kind of gather and eat, and people from the community and alumni come, and then we do a yoga nidra to end the night, and try to drive home without falling asleep. But after we're
thankfully, I live pretty close, so yeah.
And then the next day is graduation. But yeah, I mean, those are incredible points. I was alarmed and upset when I found out what you just told me about our female veterans and first responders, and really disappointed to hear that coming out of things. But life is the way it is, and it's a trauma.
You know what, Matt, though? It's one of those things is I am not surprised that you didn't know, because you, as a person, are not one of those people.
Right.
And so it's not top of your mind. But for the women who's experienced it, and quite frankly, the women who still are experiencing it, having a safe place to talk about that is really huge and impactful.
Yeah, and that's what I've discovered throughout this. And so huge thanks. So please, come to our website, find out who we are, and help us grow. Come to a cohort. It's not a retreat, so don't expect fancy anything.
No, it's a workshop.
It really is. It's a place to work hard, and you experience a lot of emotions, and a lot of people really care. People from all walks of life are out here trying to help out and make sure this happens. So, anything parting shots you'd like to make?
No, if you come, bring your own blanket. It can get chilly.
Okay.
But that's it.
All right. So thanks for watching another episode of Warriors Ascent Podcast. Tell your friends and come back for more. Thank you. Thanks for watching this episode of the Warriors Ascent Podcast. We're in Kansas City helping veterans and first responders with PTS. Check us out at warriorsascent.org.